Just don't show your mom. Just don't
No,
show your
she
mom the
knows.
podcast then.
I know, but she knows. She's like, "Oh, you're gonna air it? Oh, what is your look like?"
I'm not even recording in my room. I'm recording in my like sister's old room that I've converted into my office, kind of
Your
like my
office.
work room while I have because my mom's working from home, so I had to take all of my stuff out of the compute like our computer room,
Mm-hmm.
change everything. So how are
Moved
you?
around. I'm good. I'm just kind of feel like I'm living in Groundhog Day. Like it's the same thing every day after day.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to like start a new habit. I kind of was saying like this year I'm going to try to do something different.
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't found an interest yet. And I'm like, I feel like my interest should be the gym and eating healthy, but that's not necessarily what's pulling me. So,
Well, you can't gym,
no,
so that's one
it's a
habit
good
gone. And
excuse.
then why would you even want to eat healthy when you can
I
order in Uber
know.
Eats?
I know. That's kind of like what's been pulling me lately. I was like, oh, like deal on Popeyes?
Hell
We
yeah.
gotta get Popeyes, right?
I've been going for Booyah Ice Cream, which is downtown. I highly
Where's that?
recommend somewhere downtown near Casaloma. And then
Ooh.
uh, Cheesecake Factory on what is it,
Yeah,
Dash Hub or
Cheesecake
whatever it
Factory
is,
is a
DoorDash. Oh, it's so
must.
good.
Yeah, you're at least lucky though. Like living in Pickering, it's like you got a mom and pop's diner and they're closed by 4 p.m. And then it's like you got McDonald's and
Well,
you're gonna
trust me, that's like I live in Vaughan, so most of the things are the same thing as Pickering. Like
Oh,
everything is
okay,
shut down
fair.
too. Like you guys don't
Suburbs.
have, yeah, you don't have the shutdown technically, right?
Yeah, we kind of lucked out, but tomorrow we're gonna find out whether or not like things open back up, like or things are will close down, or if they're gonna stay open.
Hmm.
I'm kind of nervous. I don't know. I have no dog in this fight. I'm like, if it stays open, cool. If it closes, cool. But I don't know. The numbers rising is freaking me out. So
Yeah, but that was to me, the numbers rising was obvious. Like,
yeah, it was gonna happen, especially after Thanksgiving.
yeah, it not like after Thanksgiving, schools opening up, they
Yeah.
like I don't know if they necessarily, just because they gave us money to set up everything for the schools doesn't mean like we had the opportunity to set those things up. Like when I hear
No, and
like
it was so last minute.
yeah, like they're like, oh, we've upgraded the air filters in the system so that they're blah blah blah. I'm like, did you really? Because I know for a fact, like I
I
worked in
know.
construction. I know for a fact that A, like good luck finding construction workers right now. B, it's
Yeah.
gonna move slow, and then C, most school air filtration systems are so old that you have to completely take them out and put in
Yeah.
new ones for the most part, which takes forever.
No, I know. And that's
It's
the thing too. Like I was there like, oh, we're gonna put a plexiglass, the desks are gonna be
yeah,
spaced
yeah,
this much
yeah,
apart. And then you get in there, you're like, they're closer than they
yeah.
were before. Where's the
Not yeah.
plexiglass? Like, oh, that was only for certain schools. It was like, okay, like
We
so what
never
did you
we
guys
never had plexiglass. That wasn't even a thing. Like
that wasn't even a thought for you guys?
no.
Because they were saying that on TV. So I was just like, oh, okay, like good. Like I was like, at least something.
Well,
But
it's
it didn't
moon
feel like
logic.
anything really happened.
Yeah,
What logic?
moon logic. It's like
Moon
things
logic.
that work in other worlds, but not in the real one.
Exactly. They're like, oh yeah, this will be fine. And then you get there and they're like, yes, we did none of that. We
Yeah.
lied. I was like, oh, okay.
Agatha school had plexiglass and they took it, or like they had like some sort of shield and they got rid of it. I'm pretty
Just
sure.
stripped it down. Oh my
Yeah,
God.
because like it was it was a huge bother to the kids
Hmm.
and like
Well, dang. I mean, I would have been mad, but honestly, I think I would have rather the plexiglass. Like, are you guys wearing the shields?
we don't have to. It's not
Okay.
mandatory technically. Only when you're within 2 or 3 feet of a student if you're helping them out. But most teachers don't really wear it, and it's like I have to go get my like I'm wearing a mask all day, but I have to go get my face shield out of my desk, put it on, and then go help students out, which very rarely
That
happens.
Well, because honestly, I was on the exact same thing as you, right? Like, I was just kind
Mhm.
of like, oh, if I don't have to wear the shield, I'm not going to wear the shield. But then I don't know if you saw that EPFO email where
No, I
now,
didn't
like,
see it.
apparently, like, if you get COVID and they find out you weren't wearing a shield, then they can pretty much rescind like your, I guess, your workers' comp if you catch
Interesting.
COVID. Check that out. I was like,
I
oh,
have
okay,
not
maybe I'm
seen
gonna
that.
wear it. But
Ooh,
it's
no,
like,
like
no,
I have been wearing it, but it's just it's a hassle to go
yeah.
get it out of my desk. Like every time a student needs help, I have to go get it out of my desk, and I still have to wear my mask when I'm with the student. So I'm just like, uh, most of the time when a student asks me a question, I'm like, just like, keep that
Well, that's
distance,
the
give me the
thing.
paper, tell
Like,
me what you want, rather than me having to go and get. Like I try to keep my distance more
hmm
than anything else.
and when I'm wearing it, I always feel like I'm like looking through a tank or something. Like, I
Yeah,
feel like I'm wearing almost like a helmet walking around them.
yeah.
And I'm like, this is so awful. And it was funny, like, one of my coworkers, he was like, I guess at one point he like pulled down his mask to take a drink of water or whatever. And the student was like, you look so different than I thought you would have looked like, right? Because he's new and he's like, I only ever saw like your eyes, right? He's
I had a student tell me, she goes, I took off my mask and she goes, your mouth looks a lot smaller than it should, Mr. Lobach. I'm like, interesting. Okay, thank
well,
you.
yeah, you're loud, right? She's like,
No,
what?
not even like, she's just like, your mouth looks like it should go here when you have your
And it's
mask on,
bigger.
but really it's here. I'm like,
Oh,
okay,
right.
because they're in
Yeah.
grade 2, so they have no filter on them.
None at all. No, I know. I don't know if you know, but I'm doing elementary.
You're doing interesting. No, I didn't know. What
Uh-huh.
grade are you doing?
Everything.
Everything.
I'm core, so core
Oh,
eight,
you're
and then coverage.
cool.
So I was teaching kindergarten last year. I'm not anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but
I was
grade
teaching
one,
kindergarten too,
health,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
gym, etc. And the only classes I don't teach now this year is kindergarten and 2-3 split. I teach every other student, but even the kids in 2-3 split, because I taught them last year, I know them. So our school is super small. There's only like 200 kids, so it's kind of
Oh,
dope
you're in the same
because
school still? You're in
wait,
the
what?
same school as you were before?
Yeah,
Ooh, very
yeah.
nice.
So I kind of lucked out that way. Yeah, I lucked out. It was like a permanent position right away. So I'm
Damn.
the
Did you have
only
to go
French
through your
teacher.
NTIP?
Well, last year kind of got cut short because of COVID. So I
Mm-hmm.
started with like the workshops and then we did like a few training modules, but it got cut short. And then I think only got like one appraisal done. So we're kind of trying to get through that this year.
Yeah, I have to do mine
But
this year. I
yeah.
like
Oh, wait, did you
they've
like
already.
permanent?
No, 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 I'm not.
Oh my
I have an
God.
LTO
Like just like the new
position.
teacher. Oh, okay,
Yeah,
okay, okay,
I
okay.
have I have an
I was like,
LTO until
what?
March. Yeah, no, no. I will. You know what I'll do? I'll send you. I have a huge Google Drive, like 8 gigabytes of French activities and stuff like
Yes,
that. I will send that over to you.
yes,
Like it's all
yes.
of French. It's math and French, social studies, science, geography,
Ooh.
all of
Wait,
it.
are you doing immersion?
Yeah, I got
Oh, so you
immersion.
looked up. Nice, 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 nice. How do you feel about that? Like, is this your first LTO? Because you just got like,
This is my first LTO. This is my first
oh
time
my
speaking
God.
French in three
Oh
years.
my God. Yeah.
I feel like
Yeah.
I
Oh
feel
my
like an
God.
idiot half the time, like forgetting words that I should know, talking to like especially some of my my coworkers and my like bosses, like my principal and vice principal there from they are their first language is French. Some of my
Oh, they're
coworkers their first language is French. They've been
francophones.
teaching, so it's like oh like I feel like an uphill battle working towards getting my French back up to where it should be, back up to a
I
French immersion
know.
level.
Well, that was kind of like where I was like feeling was going to happen for me because I always kind of thought I was going to be teaching immersion.
Mm-hmm.
And then I ended up doing core, and I was like, well, I'm not speaking to them primarily in French. Am I going to lose my French not doing that? But
Yeah, you
honestly,
will.
it works out. But you pick it up, to be honest. Like, what I've been kind of trying to do with my approach is like using as much French as I can. And like sometimes they're just like, and they don't
Yeah,
understand what I'm saying. But like when you do it, like, I don't necessarily use aim, but I am like, as you can see, I talk with my hands a lot.
yeah,
So I'll be
yeah,
like, Monsieur, Madame, blah, 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 blah. And they get it. So I'm
yeah.
trying to use my French as much as I can, but I don't know. I wonder if it'd be different if I was in immersion, right? But
Oh, because you have to
Yeah,
speak to them in French. So you're like,
exactly.
my kids are grade two, and they like you'll say they won't be able to necessarily respond to you in French, and
Hmm.
it's mostly because they missed that like whoops, they missed that 6 months of school.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
they can understand you for the most part. Like if I speak slowly, clearly, and give concise instructions, they will understand to a T.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know. It's like, because you did immersion like me, and it's like you can tell the difference between like a student that's in core, they're not necessarily at the same level that you were even in first grade immersion.
Mm-hmm.
But it's honestly insane how quickly they pick it up, though. Like when they have an interest in it, there's some students that I can just sit there and I can talk like in French and they got it and they're good. And like you can tell, like this kid is most likely going to do it in like high school and university. Like, and a lot of our classmates that are teachers now were like core French students too. So I'm just like,
Yeah, most
really,
of
it's
them.
about like your
Yeah.
passion for it. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think we were like one of two or three that were immersion kids.
Yeah, which is kind of kind of surprising that most of the people who ended up taking French in university, which I would say is like it's not like it is very much like this is like it just kind of pushes you into French if you were in core. Like French
I
immersion to
know. It
French
was like
university was
jump.
normal, but
Yeah.
there's a huge gap, I guarantee you, between core French, grade
Yeah.
12, and university French.
I know. But you know what? They have that advantage though, because I do find like my students pick up like conjugations a lot more and like grammar, they're very strong. Whereas I know for myself personally, I wasn't necessarily the strongest in grammar, but in
It's
terms of just
horrible in
speaking
grammar.
French, like I could do it, right? But they learn like the grammar like rules, they're on it. Whereas with us, they're more focused on like authentic situations. Like if I
Mhm.
drop you off at a restaurant, can you order something, right? And so I got
But
that, but
I feel like that's more important though. It's
it
kind of like
is. I agree.
when am I writing a letter to like an acquaintance that I haven't,
Exactly.
like versus when am I
Exactly.
going to order some food from a restaurant or
Yeah.
like oh, it's brutal. But you worked in France, so your French should be like on par.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know about that. I you know what? I I always kind of loved French anyway, so I kind of tried to watch like as much movies as I could and like read a lot. So I think it was good in terms of like my comprehension and my speaking, but still in terms of like grammar, like that's something that I consistently work on regardless, just because like
Hmm.
you can forget it. Like especially when they're like, "Oh, what's the ending of subjunctif with the verb
Yeah,
aller?" And
but
I'm
like
like,
you never
like
used half the grammar. Like
I
99% of the time
know.
you're speaking in you're using present, imperfait, passé composé, or like all those subjonctive, like
Exactly.
all that stuff
Like,
is
had I not gone to the store, I would not have purchased. I'm like,
yeah.
who talks like
You would
that?
never speak like that. Exactly. And you don't. Like it's
Exactly.
there's like what is
No.
it like the one that's only written? Isn't that subjunctive? That's only
I'm
written?
pretty sure it's subjunctive. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
stupid.
no.
And
No, I
it's
don't.
hilarious. I would if you spoke in Russian, my dad told me a joke a couple weeks ago, and it's like it's basically like that. It's like how word endings change, and there's no like rhyme or reason to them. And like in Russian, it's not just the spelling that changes, but the sound stays the same in French. In Russian, the entire word changes.
Oh
Just
my God,
like
that's good.
if you're counting from two to four, it's one ending. Five, completely different ending for no reason. It's just a different version of
They
a
just
plural
like
ending.
flip it up on you guys. Or
Yeah.
like, if you want to learn it, you got to put in the work.
Yeah, which is why
It's
like
not
I
coming
speak
easy.
Russian, but I sound like a 2-year-old. I have no ability to conjugate anything
Oh my
or
God.
whatever,
Well,
anything like that.
people always say though the English is not an easy language to learn for the same thing, right? Like there's our rules that we have don't apply to a lot of words. Like with the like French, like les exceptions to les exceptions, and then the
Yeah.
exceptions to the exception. In English, I feel like that happens a lot more. Like we have no sort of like grammatical rules in
No.
place, and they switch so much. So I couldn't even imagine with Russian. That sounds
Well, it's because like with Russian, I'm sure there's a reason to it, but English is a newer language. Like I remember learning about it
with
remember in like
Sonina.
pigeon. No, not Sonina. It's like pigeons and Creoles. I think that was the
Oh, my
class
friend
with
Delia,
what's her
yeah.
face. I can't remember,
McCrindle.
McCrindle. And I wrote
Yeah, I
a
love
paper
her.
on where English, like the origins of English language. And it was compared to like Slavic languages and other languages. English is much younger than all those. So it's like, like if like those rules were just kind of there are no rules. It was just like, here's how
Yeah, I
people
kind of
speak,
get
and then
it.
like you figure the rest out later.
Exactly. Yeah,
Hmm.
no, I kind of get that. That does make sense because it's kind of just like you guys need to communicate. Like, let's just figure out something like fish. Okay,
Yeah,
fish, food, good.
yeah. Ooh. All right, Christine, are you ready to start with the questions?
Yes.
So, who are you? How do I know you? Oh, I know. I've known you for. Could you believe it's been 7 years?
No, oh my God, I know. We're old. We're old.
Yeah.
I
First
know.
year of university.
First
Oh.
year. Oh my God, yeah. So we know each other through uni from like day one. Him and our mutual friend Monica, we thought that they were a couple the first day because, like, if you know him, he just talks to everybody, anybody, and
And
everybody.
then nearly get
So
kicked out of a university level class because you're talking too much and the teacher's annoyed by you.
exactly. Exactly. Jerry was patient though. Like she was super patient. She was like, he's a little kid. Like, I'll let
Hmm.
him stay.
Hmm.
But yeah, so I remember like seeing you and Monica and I'm like, oh, they're clearly dating. Like they're all like talking like great friends and then find out like they literally just met that same day and like they're just super sociable people. And
Hmm.
then bumping into you guys later on and kind of forming our clique with just Christian and
Hmm.
Monica and you, and it was like dope. And then it was just like fire from that point. And then yeah, we're
Yeah,
here today.
we had like our because we were, so we both went to U of T Scarborough, and because we weren't
Hmm.
at St. George, our classes were much smaller. Like how many people
Yeah,
were in our French course?
like 15 to 20
15, 20
kids.
people. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we, even though we weren't necessarily like the best of friends with everyone else,
Hmm.
we knew like everyone was on a first name basis just because the classes were so
Exactly.
small.
Yeah, no, that was definitely like the best part about it was being able to be like, okay, like you guys are all from around here. If we want to meet up, we can do that. But we spent so much time in like the meeting place and like sitting there eating like
The
stale
horrible
tacos and
food.
like
Yeah.
really watered down pasta. But
Yeah. And
we
like
made it work.
water down beer, water down like
Yeah. In the Rex's
horrible.
den. Oh
Yeah.
man. Throwbacks. But
Hmm.
yeah. So what else? What was the question again? Sorry.
Oh, just yeah, it was like how we knew each other, and then like who are you? Like what do you do?
Okay, so wait, like now though, or like then? Like who was I then or who am I now? Like there's a big
Both.
difference because 18-year-old Christy. Okay, so entering university, I was definitely someone that was not as open as I am now, as sociable. So it was really helpful going into like a smaller university where classes were smaller and you could kind of like click up with more people. And then it kind of just like really encouraged me, like everybody in our program, even there was only 30 of us in our con ed program.
Hmm.
So we would have like barbecues at your place and everything, and then like everybody kind of going in the exact same direction was really helpful in terms of like staying on track. We were all like really mothering to each other, especially with you, and making sure that you had all your requirements and that you're going to graduate with us.
Yeah, I made yeah. Oh, that was oh, that was just like I don't even know. I didn't even know what I wanted to do. I was like, do I even want to be a teacher at the end of it? And then
I
when I got into
know.
OIC, I'm like, oh, I got in. Okay, all good.
Okay, I guess
And that
it's
was also
working.
because also of what's her, I forget our original program coordinator.
Sadaf was Sadaf,
Oh
right?
no, oh sorry, no, yeah. So Sadaf, and then she left, and it became
Oh God, I know who you're talking about, the
the,
redhead.
no, no, no. That was
Marcel.
oh, I can't remember her
Marcel.
name. I don't think it was Marcel because I remember Jerry English was the newest one. She was like the French
Hmm.
coordinator, and then the
Yeah.
previous French coordinator before that screwed me over so bad because she ended
Oh
up telling me
no.
that I had the correct courses, and then in my third year in the summer, I went to see her. She's like, "Okay, you need this, this, and this to graduate." But she screwed up, and she was only looking at my French courses
Oh, and
instead
not
of
your
looking
minor.
yeah. And I ended up having to take like extra summer school in my fourth year,
Oh my
which I absolutely loved.
God.
Like those courses were
Okay.
awesome. Like they
Small
were the
wins.
most interesting courses I'd probably taken all year, and it was totally outside of my uh like any sort of course that I've taken. It was a third year level course for women in science. It was basically like how science is like practically speaking how it um is like gender bias towards men, and a lot of like the uh like medicine that you as a woman would take does not necessarily apply to you the same way because it was only tested on. So it was like a really interesting course because it showed
That
like
sounds
serious
so much
biases.
better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the
That
other one
sounds so
was
good.
like all it was like alternative media, so we had to like one of our projects was like sending a letter to a friend in the mail, or like sorry, replacing one of your media habits with an old school media habit. So I sent a letter to a friend, and he messages me because and he hadn't even opened the letter yet. He goes, "Bro, are you dead? Did you die? You sent the letter."
Are you getting married? Like, what's
Yeah.
going on? Yo,
He was
I love
concerned
that
that I had
actually.
died because I sent the letter to him.
Right? He's like, it's like a black envelope with like white writing
Yeah. Whoa.
contacting you from beyond the grave.
Yeah, but that was like, oh, like I absolutely hated her. And I remember speaking to Jerry English afterwards, like, and she was
I
like,
feel
I
like
don't
I
know what she
remember you
did.
talking
She
about
has
that.
these notes written into her thing about you saying you can graduate with these courses, but you ought like you can't. I don't know what she did. And I'm like, you're telling me that I have to spend like more money, more time in university? Like,
Exactly.
I
Especially when
was
you're
ready
like,
to
I'm
like slam my
over it.
head
I cleared
on
the
the
comp.
table. Yeah.
God, yeah, no, I would have been so upset. Like, I
Hmm.
know the stress of taking classes in the summer, but at least like yours turned out well for
Yeah.
you because that used to just be like, it sucked because it's like, yeah, you spent the whole year and then boom, now you're going downtown. You never went downtown. I don't know. Wait, where's your summer classes downtown or were they at Scarborough campus?
One of them was downtown. It was with wasn't it with you and
Olivia.
Olivia? Yeah, we
Yeah, I
but
remember
we
that.
took what was it like sea level French or I can't remember what it
Yeah,
was. But that
yeah.
was also like that was a course that I like went to maybe half the time probably because I like it sucks driving downtown and it sucks getting downtown anyways. So I was like, I
Yeah.
don't need to go
Okay,
today. It's
well,
fine.
yeah, okay. And then there's me coming from Pickering, so I don't even
Yeah,
want to hear
you know
it.
what?
You're
Yeah, I
literally
know.
going from
Yeah,
like north to south. I'm like, okay.
yeah. Yeah, well, that was my first year commute at UTSC. It was an hour and a
Oh,
half to and an hour and a half from because I didn't
oh,
have a car
nice.
yet.
Oh,
So I had to
yikes.
take the
Yeah.
bus. I had to take two buses and the subway to get to U of T Scarborough. It was brutal.
Yeah, no. See, that was my advantage with it being out in Scarborough, and I live right on that border. I literally could get to school in like less than 15 minutes, and I was like, dope. But downtown, I was like, I have to catch the train. Like,
Hmm.
what? No,
Hmm. It's
not my
brutal.
thing.
So
Mhm.
what are you doing now? What is your position?
So core French elementary teacher landed permanent last year, so I'm super happy about
Congratulations
that.
again. Hmm.
Thank you. I'm enjoying it. Like it's awesome because I get so much like diversity with my students starting from like really young kindy all the way up until grade 8. So it's
I'm
really
surprised.
yeah,
Well,
it's
because I thought Core French started from 4 to 8. Not the diversity thing, but like I thought Core French started at grade 4, not at kindergarten.
yeah, so I do core French 4 to 8. Like I'm the only French teacher at the school, but then I'm also a coverage teacher.
Oh, that's
Yeah, so
brutal. Because
like
you got no support. Like you can't go ask a
no.
colleague, like, hey, do you have this, or this?
Well,
Oh.
there was one teacher that had taught it like I think 6 years ago. So I
Hmm.
kind of would go to her here and there and be like, "Hey, do you remember what you did?" She's like, "That was a long time ago."
Yeah.
No, I don't. But sometimes she has some pretty good ideas, and I'm like, "Okay, great." But
Hmm.
yeah, it's a lot being like the only person there. Um,
Do
but
you get any
also I
prep
think
time?
like
Like,
I do. I get like pretty good prep. Like
okay.
last year, I had the first period off every day, and so like I'd come in, everyone's stressful, like bringing their kids in and everything, and I'm like, I'm gonna go get a coffee and like
Hmm.
eat my bagel, like
Yeah,
start
yeah.
marking. But it is a lot just because like it's hard to prepare so much material for so many classes. And
Mhm.
then also kind of like, you know how like a lot of teachers, like you, after a while of like teaching the fifth grade for like 10 years, you know what the expectations are for the grade, and like you have a lot of your material. Whereas I found like last year, with it being my first year teaching,
Mhm.
it was just like a lot. I felt like I think I was at school every day till like 8 p.m. So it's like at least better now, where I'm like, okay, I do have some resources that I can go to. I know the students, I know their abilities, I know whose work has to be like differentiated, who's really strong, right? Who can like lead.
Sorry.
So I was just like, I'm just gonna keep going. Yeah, so like it's just kind of, it's good because I know the students now.
Mhm.
And then yeah, I'm excited about the fact that like the kids that I started with, I'll be able to like see cycle through the eighth grade and like seeing their progress. I'm really excited for. So
Yeah, well, I know, like, I understand how brutal that is. I've never gone through it personally, but I understand how brutal it is to like go teach every single grade, or even like, even if you have like a split class, like Agatha right now has a grade 2-3 split, and it is literally twice as much work.
so
So
you
you
want to
have
hear
like
something
8 times as
crazy?
much work. Hmm.
All of my classes are split. All of
Oh,
them. Every
why?
single one split.
How?
Because the school's so small, there's only like 200 kids.
So
Not,
just
I don't even know if there's
like
that many.
like at that point, is there even a point to having a split class? Just make them all like make individual classes at that
Well,
point.
they'd be like 15 kids in each class, so they
But that's
have
what it
to
should
put them
be.
together. That's what I would love if it
Like
was normally
right
15 kids.
right
Now
now it
it's,
has to be 15. Well, like
yeah.
so they never made it official, but like it should be as close to 15 as possible. Like
Well,
my
no,
like I have
this year,
16.
yeah.
So yeah, this year.
Yeah, this year it was 15 because so many kids are virtual now. But
Hmm.
last year, no, it was like there's still every class is still a split, but it's still like 15 now. But last year it was like no, there was like 30 kids, 28 kids, and then split.
Wow.
So
Okay. That
yeah, it was
sounds
a
like,
lot.
yeah, that sounds like I had 30 kids in the UK, and that was a lot of work.
Yeah, I
Especially
couldn't
especially the
imagine.
UK was like very, very strict on the kind of marking you had to do, and you had to like write like for every child you had to have like a paragraph on like their right like on their any of their writing assignments or anything like that.
Oh my
I
God.
loved working in the UK. I loved it, but it's definitely a lot more work than it is here. Like here, I finish work at 3:10. I leave
Mhm.
I leave at 3:25, 3:30.
Okay, good.
Like
But I think that's
I
like
make
a
sure to leave.
good, I feel like that's a good trade-off though. Like at the same time, it's like I feel like life is for living at the end of the day. And it's like when I go to work, I love what I do, but I do still want that time when I come home to do
Mhm.
something before I have to start marking or like lesson prepping for like the next day or,
Yeah, exactly.
so I
I
think that's
get
a
like
good
all my
trade-off at
work
least.
done. I try to get all my work done during prep. I like
Yeah,
I try to
exactly.
block everyone and everything out, and it's hard because I do my prep in class while my class is still sitting there with the prep teacher, either doing music, dance, art,
Yeah.
or whatever it is. And like kids will still walk up to me, ask questions, but I'm like, nope,
Right? You're
I'm
like,
not.
I'm
I'm
not
not your
here. I'm
teacher
not
right now.
here.
Ignore me. Yeah, because
Yeah.
and like some, like I know some people would say like your kids are asking you a question, you got to answer them, blah blah blah, but it's like this is my time to make sure that I have everything done for the rest of the week so I don't have to go home. There we go. Sorry, my camera
Okay,
just
perfect.
died.
No
um
problem.
so yeah, this is going to look a lot more brutal now with the with the
Like
webcam. Yeah.
my scope now.
Hmm. But yeah, no, like I don't want to have to go home and spend another 2-3 hours planning or marking or doing whatever. Like
Well,
that's not what I want to do.
from one coverage teacher to whichever coverage teacher at your school,
Hmm.
honestly, it's so mortifying when you're doing a lesson and the kids keep going around you to go talk to the homeroom teacher. And I'm like, I'm right here. Like, just come to me. They're like, oh, it doesn't have anything to do with your class. I'm like, well, your other classes things should be in your desk. So, you know
Hmm.
what I mean? But like, I totally understand what you're saying.
Well, it's not
Like
even that. Like
who,
my kids are just like,
yeah.
"Sir, can I go to the bathroom?" I'm like, that's like your teacher's right there right now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no,
Most
even
of the
that as
time I will
well. It's
answer
like,
their question. Like most of the time
yeah.
I'll be like, yeah, no problem, whatever. But
Hmm.
sometimes I have to tell them like, hey, I can't have a conversation right. Like I'm doing this, I'm
No.
doing like your teacher's right in front. Please refer
And
to your
kids don't
teacher.
get that either, especially in the second grade. Like
No.
they're kind of just like, oh, that's my teacher. This is
Hmm.
a new lady, but that's my teacher. So
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah. And they only see them like one of them they only see once a week. So to
Hmm.
her, she's literally a new teacher every time she walks into them.
Yeah.
It's brutal.
It's like that with my first graders for health. Like I've been with them since September, but I have them 3 times a week for about
Hmm.
like an hour some days, half an hour the other. Um, but every single time there's still always a kid that's like, teacher, and I'm like, it's not teacher. Like they always just like forget your name. Like they're just kind of like,
Hmm.
okay, you're a lady. I need
Yeah.
help. Hand up.
Hmm. Yeah, to me, I'm for most of for the like I don't really get to see the rest of the school other than some of the classes that I've been in before, like covering someone when they're not there, and I have to
Hmm.
like go in on my prep and cover a class or whatever. But
Right.
I'm that guy or that male teacher because I think I'm one of
I was gonna
two.
ask,
I'm
yeah.
one of two male teachers in the school, or sorry,
Oh my
one of three
God.
male teachers. So it's interesting because like everybody they call me Madame all the time
Oh my God, that's
because
so
they're just
cute
not.
though.
It's like it just slips out because they
Right.
say Monsieur like I don't know once a year and Madame every other second.
Exactly.
Hmm.
Yeah. Oh my God. I didn't even think about that. So you're one of two teachers or one of two male teachers in your
Well,
school?
one of three, yeah. So there's
Okay.
me, a gentleman who teaches the older grades. Actually, they both teach like grade 5, 6, 7, 8, somewhere around there. They're like intermediates. So they're like on top of that, like my kids really never see those male teachers because they're
Right.
either downstairs or in the older classes. So it's really rare for them to see another male teacher because my kids are upstairs and
Yeah.
they're downstairs.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I think our school, we don't have very many male teachers too. So it is a lot of women in our school, which is kind of been, I mean, I guess it's a usual dynamic, right? How do you find it like in the staff room and everything? Like, are the
We don't even go
topics?
to the staff room. I do like I eat
Oh, okay.
upstairs in my classroom, or because the
Okay.
students aren't allowed in the library anymore, we
Hmm.
use our library as like a prep area slash staff area for lunch because the staff
Hmm.
room is fairly small and you can only have like one person at one desk
Yeah.
per thing.
Right.
So there's like 7 people in there maximum
Oh
versus the library, it's pretty
man.
big. So you can have like 15 people in there, 20 people, however many it is. And
So
most
how
of the
many
time I
people are
sit
at
in my
your
class.
schoal?
Oh,
Like, is it
there's,
a big school?
yeah, it's so normally I think it's around 750 or
Whoa,
650. And
my.
then right now there's 400-ish students who are in class. Every class is
Oh my
about 16
God.
students or 15 students, something like that. Oh,
I
it's not
could
bad.
not imagine. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's a lot of kids.
Yeah.
Definitely forget that whole I'm learning everyone's names business.
Yeah,
But
no, I'm not learning
yeah.
everyone's name. I know my kids' names. I know that maybe like some of the kids in the other classes for grade 2, but other than that, it's too much. I suck at names too. I'm
Yeah.
horrible with names.
Oh God. I know I mix up all the time. Just like, I'm
Hmm.
sorry, that's not your name.
I mix up kids' names in my own class. It's just like you mix it up once and then that's it. That's their name forever.
Yeah, exactly. Like you're fixated on it, and they're like, "No, I'm not that person." But like me and Jessica had to go to that unit all the time. But like, oh, okay, blah blah blah, Jessica. And I'm like, I'm Christine. I'm not Jessica. But yeah.
Hmm. Okay, so I think here, what's question number two? Oh, here. So, what are your qualifications? So, I think they're the same as mine, except you have a minor, probably.
Yeah, so I have a specialist in French and then a minor in human geo.
Hmm.
Um, I'm I'm supposed to be an IS, but I guess because I'm doing the 7/8 that I'm able to get in that way. And again, that I'm the only French teacher, so
Hmm.
I am teaching the younger grades. So it is a bit of an adjustment just because for my practicum, it was all high school. And even when I was in even when I was in high school doing my placement, it was also in a high school. So it's very strange for me now to be elementary school, but I love it. And I'm like, I
Mhm.
don't know if I want to go back to IS, like if I want to go to a high school. I mean, I loved it there too, but I don't know, working with kids is fun. Like you get to be goofy and funny and kind
I
of
like see. I'm the I think I would like and it's not to like knock working with students. Like I love
yeah.
working
Yeah,
with
yeah.
older students. Like grade two for me, I love my students. I love my class. They're very smart. But I think when you get up to like slightly older, maybe like grade four or five, they start to like they start to like differ in personalities. I feel like
I was just
grade two
about to
kids are
say
all
that.
like
Yeah.
this like they're not the same, but they all kind of like they all like love to draw and they all love Pokemon cards and they
Yeah.
all love, but like then you start getting like grade four or five, they all start having different interests.
Own
Like, person likes
opinions
this
and
one. Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
And
It's
their like little
different.
sassiness comes out sometimes too. They're
Hmm.
trying to be unique and kind of carve out an identity for sure.
Yeah,
I
and
know
I like
exactly what
that.
you're
I like
saying.
that more, I
Yeah,
think.
yeah, yeah, definitely. That is like something that's a lot more apparent in the older grades that I teach. It is challenging sometimes though, just because you do still get that like a little bit of a hive mind thing where it's like,
Hmm.
I don't like this. I don't like this either. I don't like this
Yeah,
either.
that never goes away. That's like
Yeah.
what's that experiment where they like show people different size lines and then they convince the person who's not in on the experiment that the one line is shorter than the other when it's clearly not. There's like a
And
whole like
everybody they just like
psychological
hive
experiment.
in.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
then
that's
like they
for
actually
sure.
most of the people will like be like, "Oh, yeah, I guess that line is shorter," and one line's like this and one line's like that, and they're like, "Yeah, yeah, that this line is
Yeah, I
shorter than this
guess
line."
if you like pinch
Yeah.
like that, yeah.
So most people like I don't know. It's interesting. It never goes away, that hive mentality for kids
No,
and for adults.
I know, yeah. I guess everybody just wants to go with the status quo, right? They're like, I don't want to be the outsider. So,
Hmm.
but it's funny seeing them do it though, more so just because it's like, it's so transparent. At least with adults, when it happens, you're like, what are they thinking? With kids, it's like, I know
Yeah,
exactly what's
exactly.
going on,
That's like my
sure.
friend doesn't like your yeah, my friend doesn't like it, so I don't like it. Or like or
Exactly.
you like it, so I don't like it. Like,
Exactly.
man.
Exactly. It's like, this is not cool, madame. I was like, you don't
Hmm.
even know what's cool.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Oh. And then why did you want to become a teacher?
So
Feel
I
like this
think
is like
there's
a
like,
real interview.
yeah,
So
I
why do you
do.
want to
And
become
I'm
a
trying to
teacher?
think, trying to think back to what I answered. I probably said like I wanted to have a big impact, which is true.
Yeah.
I did. There were so many teachers along the way that really helped me become the person that I was. And I went through like a lot of like personal growth and
Hmm.
as well as like academic growth. Like they were always somebody that I could kind of turn to, as well as like obviously like my own parents and like my family, but just having like another adult that sometimes is outside of the scenario, I find like is sometimes a lot easier to talk about, especially if it's something that's occurring at school. Sometimes your teacher picks up on things before you even get a chance to, right?
Hmm.
um and then also in terms of like representation, like as a young Black child, I found like there were not a lot of Black teachers in school,
Yeah.
and it's something that even lingers on to today. And I found that like a lot of the material that we were learning in school was very white centric, and there weren't a lot of things that really piqued my interest. um, and so like even like when we talk about prominent Canadians, right, like a prominent Canadian to me would be Drake, right, or
Hmm.
Justin Bieber, right? Those are prominent Canadians to me. That's my generation. But it
I thought you were
also
gonna
is
say like
saying,
John A. McDonald or someone like that. I thought you were gonna go like way back. Yeah.
well, that was what I was going to talk about. So we
Yeah.
focused on like John A. McDonald, like shout out to my elementary school sir John A. McDonald, SGen
Yeah.
Mustangs.
Mm.
But um we focus so much on these people, and then you go and you look back and you're like, oh, this person owned slaves, or this person was like
Yeah.
pushing for slavery. I'm like, why are these people revered, right? Like, or even Dundas downtown, right? And they're trying to like get that pulled now.
My high school, they're changing the name of Vaughan Secondary because the original, so the gentleman, I forget his first name, something Vaughn or Vaughn something, I can't remember. He was
Mm-hmm.
a proponent, like he was in favor of owning slaves.
You
So
see what I'm saying? And I understand like it's like the time, right? But at the same time, like there's still a level of morality, and I don't think owning people would have been the right way to look at things,
mhm.
right? But
Well,
again, it's
like
like
I
with the
think they
times.
should probably change the name of
Mm-hmm.
my high. Like I get it. You
Mm-hmm.
don't want to celebrate someone who is like who was a proponent of owning slaves, but at the same time, make sure that you're not just like we're taking away the name and then this person never existed. Make sure
Exactly.
you actually
Exactly.
educate people afterwards, because then they're what is it that you erase the past, you're doomed
Repeat
to
it
repeat the
again.
future. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I
like.
agree. I
Mhm.
definitely agree with that point. I think that there needs to be a larger conversation on who Canada chooses to celebrate, as well as how certain domains that are not as respected are respectable to the younger generation, right? So
Mhm.
I do try to incorporate a lot of like pop culture in my lessons. I find that's really helpful. Um, Even sometimes just like getting silly with them. I find like I didn't get that as much when I was younger, right? Like I definitely was the class clown growing up. And so I totally understand like those kids that constantly have to like shoot off something like snarky or funny. And so that to me is even like something that I love about teaching too. It's like always exciting. There's always a new story. Like there's
Mhm.
it's just like it keeps you on your toes, right? I don't think I could be somebody that like works. I don't know if I could like a cubicle type. I feel like I'm a big people person. And so
Mhm.
seeing my teachers over the years just like really helped me and pushed me in that direction.
Mhm.
And then it just always stuck. Like I kind of knew like from the beginning that I always wanted to get into teaching, and there were always like voices from the outside, like get into medicine, get into law, get into business. But I always kind of knew what I wanted to do, and
Mhm.
I'm so happy I stuck with it because I don't think there's any other career that I'd want to do. And I love my students. Like that's definitely something that keeps me where I am. Like my staff's amazing, my students are amazing. I have like no complaints on that side. So
Mhm.
definitely happy that I did it.
Good. Yeah. Yeah, that's like same for me. Always like since I was I think 14, 15, always wanted to be a teacher. And then all
Mm-hmm.
those, my voices were less so like get into medicine, get into business. It was just like get in somewhere. Those are my
Yeah.
so
Okay.
so I'm
Well,
like, yeah, I might
good.
as well get into teaching. And then my
Yeah.
grandmother was a teacher before. She was actually a French
Nice.
teacher in what like from Belarus, although it was like not
Ooh.
even like the
Is it
way
like
that education
Belarusian
worked there,
French?
yeah, the way like it was just pure grammar. Like that was the only thing they really drilled.
They were like going to restaurant. Who's going to restaurant?
Yeah, exactly. No, you don't go. First of all, there was no restaurants to go to. Good luck finding food.
Exactly.
But yeah, ugh. But yeah, no.
Oh.
Like I think I've always wanted to be a teacher too, because I've like I know like I started doing it when I was 14, 15, teaching mixed martial arts. And I'm like, I
Mm-hmm.
don't really want to
Yeah.
own my own
Nice.
school and continue with that. I'd rather actually teach like a curriculum than have to own my own school, hire students,
Mm-hmm.
staff. That's business acumen. And while I'm sure I would have loved to do that, that's less time teaching and more time running a business.
Exactly. Yeah, no, I completely understand. I think like it's just different, even in terms of like being in the classroom and then being in an administrative position in education. I think that's something that I might look into in the future, but it's not as exciting to me personally. It's not as exciting as being in the room and like getting to know the kids and
Yeah.
getting to celebrate holidays and birthdays with them. Like it's fun. I find like I don't know what other career aside from being like a member of like the Cirque du Soleil troupe that it's like as fun as teaching, in my opinion. So yeah.
Yeah. When was the last time you took up Cirque du Soleil?
I can do a stretch. Okay, so
Yeah, that's
I was
twice as
clearly an
high that I could get
acrobat.
my leg up, so you went there. Oh, yeah, no, it's like the people who say like teaching is easy or whatever, or it's like if you can't do teach, like
I
that
know it's so rude.
get
Oh my god.
like come it's not even rude, it's just to me it's stupid. Like go
Yeah.
go try to teach someone something and see if you don't get like absolutely frustrated, like mind-boggling, like just like ripping your hair out from,
I know.
and
Yeah,
like
you
not
have to
even
be a
kids,
patient
adults, like
person.
yeah, try teaching an adult something and see like see how that makes you feel, and then convert that to teaching 15 to 30 like grade 1 students or kindergarten
Exactly.
students. Like good luck. You're not mentally
Exactly.
prepared for what you're about to go through.
No. And there's so much stuff that people don't get, like that occurs behind the scenes, like with a
Hmm.
like with reports, and progress reports are coming up for me next week. So I'm already like in
Hmm.
that zone. And oh, this student has an IEP, like how can I modify this work? Oh, this one needs
Hmm.
to be online, right? Like it's different from, I guess, like how a lot of, I think a lot of people's miss, they don't
Representation.
exactly, of like teachers really is just from their own personal like, student experience as students, and they're like, well, I know how teachers are because I had a teacher, right? Or my
Yeah, no,
teacher
like yeah.
never helped me, so all teachers are bad. And I'm like, there's
Yeah.
no career where there's not going to be like a bad apple, right? Or
Hmm.
maybe that was your own like misinterpretation of the situation, right? Being a little, a second grader and your teacher tells you, no, don't do this, you're like, she's mean. It's like,
Yeah,
no, she told you
exactly.
not to stick your finger in the socket for a reason,
Yeah,
friend. Like,
yeah. Yeah, that's me. Like if for whatever reason in the future any of my previous elementary school or high school or university teachers are watching this, I apologize. I know that it
right?
was a little that I was a little doo-doo head in school. And I'm sure that
Yeah.
one day I will get my karmic justice. I'm gonna have like a class that's just gonna absolutely destroy
Oh, it's happening. It's happening in real life for me already. I'm like, oh, I know the class clown. I'm like, they're not as funny when you're the teacher anymore.
me. Yeah, no. Oh, yeah, it's different when you're on the other side.
And so different. Or like I remember when they'd always write on my report card, very nice girl, a little bit too talkative. And I'm
Yeah.
like, what's wrong with talking if I'm working? And I'm like, now when I'm delivering a lesson and there's like womp 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 womp
Yeah.
womp womp. I'm like,
Yeah.
so yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, I get it. And then how long have you been teaching? So we graduated what, 3-ish years ago?
2017 for our BA, and then 2018 for the BEd.
Mm-hmm.
So right after I got it in, I think it was June that we graduate, I went and moved to France. So I
Mm-hmm.
was
What was that
gone.
like? Moving to France right
I
after being like
loved it. It was scary because I definitely am somebody that was always under my parents' thumb, and my parents were very much helicopter. So
Mhm.
I didn't feel like I was ready to leave the house at all. So when September came, I was super anxious and super excited at the same time. I just felt like I was like, okay, like it's happening, like the plane is flying and you're gonna get on it. And I felt like I was just really living in the moment, which I never did before. I felt like my life was always pretty planned out.
Mhm.
But it was great. Like my family was there with me and they like wished me well. And yeah, it was great. And then so I taught there for from September to almost May, and then came back from May to June. I had an LTO for a month where
Oh
I did
wow. Okay.
immersion,
Mm-hmm.
and then September landed the job that I'm at now. So this is my second year now at my new school.
Okay, that's awesome. And then how did you get your job working in France? And where was it? Was it Paris?
No, so I was actually in Strasbourg. There's this program that is called TAPIF. So it's a teaching abroad program in France. That's the
Hmm.
acronym. It's done through the French government.
What if that I'm like, wow, that is a very like lazy acronym, like teaching abroad in like TAPA.
Exactly. I know. And yeah, it's done through the French government. So, I mean, it was kind of like really official. The visa process was crazy. I actually, the going away party and everything that you were at,
Hmm.
at the party, everyone's wishing me goodbye, and I'm like, I don't even know if I'm flying because my visa.
You're gonna get
I was like,
accepted. Yeah.
yeah. No, it was like the visa hadn't even come. Like they lost my visa, and I'm like, my flight is
Oh.
in 2 weeks. Like, what's going on? Yeah, it was in Montreal, and they're like, we were trying to tell you that it's in Montreal. I was like, well, I'm not driving to Montreal, so somebody needs to mail it to me. And so I got it like a week before I was flying out. Um, but yeah, so I was in Strasbourg. It's like a city an hour away from Strasbourg, from Pickering.
From Paris?
Yeah, it's an hour away from Paris. I was like Pickering. And it was great because it was like, even though it was like a small town, in the city center, there was a lot going on, and that's where I was living. I lived maybe like a 5-minute walk away from the action. And so like making a lot of friends and everything was super easy. We could always just like go out, go get a drink, go get some pizza, or when it wasn't pizza, it was like, it was kind of like a flatbread almost with like melted cheese. Oh my God, we used to eat that like crazy. It was so good. But yeah, it was definitely an adjustment moving from Pickering to Strasbourg.
And then how, so the TAFF program, how did they support you in any way to get there? Like, did they help you with the visa, or did they help you with the move, or it was just like, yeah, when you come here, you have a job. Good luck.
That was exactly what it was. They didn't offer any sort of help, no sort of support. I was essentially homeless when I got to France. I was
Nice.
Airbnbing for a week, and before like I ended up finding this place, which was beautiful. I miss it. I miss having my own place.
Yeah.
And the pay was awful. It was actually below minimum wage.
Like minimum
And
wage in France or minimum wage here?
below in France. Below
Dang.
minimum wage in France.
So
Yeah. So
what were you do like, so what was the pay for? What was your position? Because you weren't a teacher, or you
no,
were teaching assistant.
yeah. So essentially what it was that there is an English teacher the same way that we have our core French teachers. They have their English teachers there. And then I would take a cohort every day and do a lesson with them. So I guess essentially there'd be half of them that stays with homeroom teacher, and then the other half that I'm with, and it's just allowing them to get like that authentic
English
experience with a
accent.
native French speaker, I mean native English speaker. So it was great on that regard, because I think that there's a huge difference between like the capacity and like the competencies of like the English language for French speakers as is for English speaking students that are learning French, because there is such a huge interest in terms of like pop culture and like big celebs, like they're all English, right? The movies are in English, the music's in English. So there's a huge desire and push for the kids to want to learn English. Whereas I find like being here in France, being here in Canada, students aren't necessarily that receptive to picking up the language, just because they don't really find too much of a need for it. So it was really nice when I was there to be able to have kids that were literally hanging off of every word that you were saying, just because they were so excited to like, oh, like your accent is so cute. I love it.
Yeah, I get that.
They loved it. So it was like, that was kind of what my role was in the school, but it was great. I had a few classes that I was with. So I was with I believe 6 teachers in total. So I'd be there for a couple of hours a day, but the setup in France for teaching is unparalleled. It's essentially
Good.
like how we had it. Amazing.
Oh, okay.
Amazing. So, you know, in university, how if I have a class at 4 p.m. to 6 p.m., like that's the only time that I'm there at school. I don't have to be there from 8:30 and then like be there the whole day until 4 to 6 p.m. That was the exact same thing in France. So like
As a
if,
teacher, not
yeah, as
a
a
student is
teacher.
there all day, but a teachers can be there from whatever time they need to be.
No, even the students in France, like they
Eh.
have classes at designated times of the day. So it
These
was
are high school students that you were teaching? Ah,
yeah.
okay.
So I was doing, yeah, high school was more structured, like university. Elementary was structured more so how it is here.
Hmm.
So yeah, but I only it was awesome, and I guess the pay kind of reflected how many hours I was working because I only worked 15 hours a week,
Yeah. Yeah, I guess so. But
right?
hmm
As opposed to the 6 hours every day here. But
hmm
apparently, teachers in France, they're only working 18 to 20 something hours a week anyway. So it wasn't like I was working a lot less than they were. It's just that I wasn't with a homeroom specifically. Um, but I
hmm
mean, working 6 hours a day here and then 15 hours there was like a huge adjustment for me. And they were even shocked. Like the teachers were shocked to hear how much we were working. They were like, "What? Like this? Like I don't know. Yeah, it wasn't.
I don't know,
Was a
like
big was a big jump.
six and like to me 6.5 or like 6 hours or 6.5, whatever it is. That's like that's less than a work like a regular person's work day, like who's not a teacher.
It
But when I
is.
hear like 15
Yeah.
hours, I'm like, that sounds closer to what I was doing in China in terms of like actual physical work. Because it's like, yeah, you're in like I was in school for I think it was like 7:45 to like 4 p.m. So a long time. But the amount I was
Hmm.
teaching was like 4 hours a day
So
or
you
even
had to
less.
go there from start to end of day.
Yeah, it was also because I worked
Okay.
at two different campuses, so I would get
Okay.
driven from one side to the other. But like lunch was like my lunch was from 11:30 to 2, or sorry, 1:30. That was my lunch.
What?
That was my lunch in China.
11:30?
Yeah,
Oh my
to
god.
1:30. So I would have my lunch for 2 hours, and then in those two
Hmm.
hours I would be driven to a different campus by the school, who would pay for a taxi every single day to drive me to a different campus, and then
Yeah,
back
it seems
back
like
home too.
you got like a nice little setup there. I got the exact opposite. It was like if you didn't come with like a sort of savings, you were like there were a lot of people that had to go home early just because they couldn't afford to stay there like the rest of the time. So I
Hmm.
kind of more so looked at it as an opportunity to use my French. I kind of treated it more so as like a trip rather
Hmm.
than working because I was working so little. And I really just took the time to just take in the city, which was
Hmm.
beautiful, especially during December with the Christmas market. They call it the Christmas capital,
Hmm.
just because it really just takes over the whole city and it was beautiful. So, and like it was nice too because of the fact that I feel like it wasn't necessarily as large of a city as Paris. People were very friendly. They were really patient with me as well, just because even though yeah, I do speak French, it's not the
It's
same
not
as
like Canadian
Strasbourg,
French
not
is
even
not French
close.
French. Yeah, and I
No, and then also where I was living, Strasbourg is on the border of the German border. It's on the German border,
hmm
so they speak Alsacien. So it's French
never heard
mixed
that.
with German.
Okay.
Yeah, because we're in Alsace, so they speak Alsacien. And so apparently Strasbourg used to belong to Germany, and then it ended up going into France. And so there are a lot of German speakers in Strasbourg. Um, I'm probably butchering the pronunciation of that too. Just
I didn't
yeah.
even know of that. So you're ahead of me in that department. Yeah,
Um,
but that's so like that's got to be the weirdest sound. That's got to be this equivalent to if a native French speaker heard like Ontario, Northern Ontario French, like the whole.
exactly.
It's just
Oh
like probably
man.
doesn't quite hit the ear right.
No. And they, you know what, they again were really patient with that. And but it was funny because sometimes we would just like make jokes about it. For example, we say soulier ici, like we say soulier here, but in France they say chaussure. Like they do not say soulier. And I was like, why do we say soulier? She was like,
We say
soulier was
both, I
like
guess. I don't know. Yeah,
I
but
grew up on soulier, and then when I think I was like grade 8 when I had a teacher say chaussure, and I was like, "What's chaussure? Like chaussette, sock?" And she's like, "No, chaussure, shoe." But when I got to France and I was saying soulier, and she's like, that was like 16th century French. Like nobody says that. Or
Interesting. Oh, I didn't know.
yeah, there's a lot of words that we use here that's very outdated, and that's how they can tell right off the bat, like even before the pronunciation, that the vocabulary that you're using
Is
is
not quite right.
no, exactly.
I had a teacher who came, she was my grade 8 French teacher. She came from France and she had to read, like, you have to, whatever, like, reapply, do your degree here for a year
Hmm.
to become a teacher. And she was telling us a story about how someone asked her for a charpineur. And she's like, what is,
Pinard.
what is a qu'est-ce que c'est un charpineur? She's like, je n'ai pas un charpineur, je m'excuse. And the girl was like, it's right there on your desk. Come on, why won't you give me a charpineur? She's like, le taille crayon? What charpineur? She was like, it blew her mind that
Oh
someone
my
was saying that
gosh.
word.
Yeah, we literally, I think it's just with us being right, being in an Anglophone country for
Yeah.
the most part, even though it's supposed to be bilingual, that Francophones just pick up English words and make it work.
Yep.
Or
They
it's the
just
opposite,
they
where
just put
we
like
say
an
fin de
accent aigu in the
semaine.
middle of the word and that's it.
Yeah, and exactly, they don't even do that anymore. But I know like le weekend, they say that in
Yeah.
France. They do not say fin
Yeah.
de semaine.
Mm-hmm.
And then I will say fin de semaine to my students, and then, or I'll say le weekend sometimes. And they're like, isn't it fin de semaine? I'm like, actually,
Mm-hmm.
in France, it's not.
Yeah, there's a lot of words that they've started taking from like I know like my soufflé is now just popcorn. It like
The popcorn, yeah.
yeah. There's a
Yeah.
lot. There's so many words like that. It's like everything. It's like it's good in terms of like everyone's finally going like one day everyone's going to speak the same language and hopefully communication will be a little easier and we will be able to
Right.
understand everyone. But at the same time, it's like you're losing that culture, that those differences that make us unique. So it's
I
like
agree.
kind of
I
merging together.
definitely, I think that's so important. And that's definitely something I try to get my students on board with. I'm like, differences are good. And being able to speak a second language really opens up a lot of doors for you, not even just in the job market, but just being able to form connections with people that you would not have been able to had you not spoken that, right? So
Mhm.
that was like something I did not take for granted when I was in France. I made as many friends as I could. Some of them I still talk to today and we like share memes on IG and like each other's pictures on Facebook. And oh, this person got a new puppy, so that's awesome. But it was nice, and
Mhm.
it was like they really were, again, just really helpful in terms of showing me around the city, and there was a lot to do. Um, yeah, but I don't know.
That's awesome. Yeah. I wish I could have said the same thing about my time in China because it was much like I do not speak a lick of Mandarin or
Right,
Cantonese and it
right.
was very like Agatha was trying to learn. I was just using an application to like there was an app that I found on my on iTunes where it was you speak into it, it translates to Mandarin, and then the other person could immediately speak back, and it would recognize that they're speaking in Mandarin, and it will translate back in English, and it was like 90% accurate.
Oh,
So
that's
that's
pretty
what I
good.
used. Yeah,
So it's kind of like a better version of Google Translate.
yeah. It's like it's an instant version of Google. Like I'm sure Google Translate can do the same now, but this is
Hmm.
last year, and I couldn't find that function there. Like it was
Okay.
pretty accurate, but I had like a taxi driver. He was talking to me, and it translated. He was saying something, and it translates to "I love you," and he was like, "No, no, no!" Like,
He's like,
yeah, so it was a little bit. I would say it's a little bit more difficult to make more friends and things like that. But I have a lot of students who speak Mandarin in my class now, in my grade 2 French immersion class, and they're like, "Do you speak any?" And I'm like, I can say like "boucher," which means no, and they're like, like, "Yes, you do," and then they start like.
no. Oh no. Oh my God, that's so cute though.
But like
That's
when they
a
start going,
good
I have no
way,
clue what they're saying.
right? You're like, okay, well,
Like they could be
keep it
like
up.
I don't know. I have to tell them to stop it because I don't know if they're swearing or I don't know what they're. So I have to ask them politely. I'm like, please speak in French, or
Right.
at this point, please speak in a language I can understand. Speak in English, please. I have to know what you're saying in class.
So with your program in China, what did you like have, did you know a lot of people that were also in the same boat as you? Like,
Mm-mm.
oh
Not a single per.
no.
So we didn't go through an agency. We just went
Okay.
through. It was a website called Nomad Teaching, and it was
Mm-hmm.
just literally the school posted a job posting, and we applied to
Mm-hmm.
it, and they accepted us. So there was no middleman. When we went to London, we had Engage Education, which was the ones that took us to London. They were our agency, and then for you it was TAPF. For us, we got the jobs directly from the school, so it was nice because there was no like, I don't know what TAPF was like, but for us, uh, Engage was like taking like they have to make their cut somehow. They got us the
Mm-hmm.
job. They did a few things, so they were skimming money off of the top of our check, obviously, and it makes sense. Like
Right.
they have to get paid,
Yeah,
but
exactly.
this was directly to us. There was no middleman, which
That
was
sounds
nice,
like a much better situation, but and
but we
then I
didn't
guess
know
yeah,
anyone.
it's the payoff, right?
Mm-hmm.
With TAPIF, it was good at least because okay, so basically when you're enrolling in the program,
Mm-hmm.
they ask you to select 3 cities that you would like to work in. So I chose Montpellier, which is in the south of France. Apparently, like there's beaches, and so I was really excited about that. And then I also chose,
I feel like
I also
Strasbourg was like a little bit which way?
right,
That
Strasbourg
way.
was like
Yeah,
northeast, and I
northeast.
was
Yeah.
like, okay, it's
Hmm.
cold. Like, no, it gets. I'm like, does it get snow? Oh, I don't want to go there. Which was wild because it was my second choice, but apparently a lot of people put Strasbourg as their first choice,
Which is straight. Yeah, you would think
right?
that maybe there just wasn't as many positions in the south of France.
Maybe. I know I had a friend that took a position in Paris, and they warned us before we even put that on the list. They're like, Paris is incredibly expensive.
Hmm.
And you could be placed somewhere that where there's nowhere around like subway service and your school is in the city. So like it could be a big process getting to your school and it's crazy expensive. And I remember my friend, he basically was like, I'm in an apartment, it's 700 euros, so like
That's a lot.
almost
That's about 1,000.
1200 CAD.
Yeah, that's a little bit.
um
Yeah.
yeah, and so he was had that, and his shower was right next to his bed, and he's like, if I did not have a curtain on my shower, I would get my water on my bed.
Jeez. Well, yeah, no.
Wow.
London was not that like we got very lucky in London because the gentleman we were
Good.
renting from was planning on he was a house flipper, so he would buy a house, renovate it, flip it
Yeah.
on the market. But
Nice.
because of Brexit, all housing prices fell, so he didn't want to sell at that point. So he rented to us
Right.
very low. So I think
Nice.
myself, Agatha, and then if you remember Tal, we were all paying each one of us together because we rented 2 rooms for 3 people. Record. There we go.
Okay.
All right, and we're back. What were we just talking about? So your I think it was your apartment in France.
Yeah, so when I first came, I was homeless. And it was not fun
Jeez.
because my anxiety was on like 500 because I was like, what if I don't find a place? Like, what if I'm gonna have to go back home? And to be honest, like I said, that I wasn't necessarily all the way comfortable with being away from home just because I got homesick really quickly. And so I was kind of looking for any sort of excuse to go back home anyways. And I was like, if I
Hmm.
can't find a place, I'm going home. And then I did find a place, and it was
Good.
beautiful. It was like, again, right in the heart of the city, so I didn't have any trouble getting to work. They do call Strasbourg also the most walkable city because
Mm.
everything is within the city center, and there are trams running everywhere. And if you don't want to, you can walk, and that was nice when you're coming from the club because you could just easily just walk right home, and it was pretty safe too, so I never was worried about that part. But
Hmm.
yeah, it
Good.
was great.
And how much were you
um
paying for your apartment again? Per month?
oh, it was expensive. It was very expensive. I'm not even gonna say, but it was not cheap. I had help from family.
Ah,
um
okay, gotcha.
so yeah, but I did have a lot of friends that that had to dip into their savings quite a bit.
Mhm.
One friend that was paying the most, though, she was paying 700 euros, 600 euros in Strasbourg, but she had a huge place, like it was massive,
Mhm.
that she kind of like had to replace. But a lot of people, they just like they roomed up together.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it wasn't too bad on that front. They were the cost of places were on average about 400 euros. So
Mhm.
it's manageable, but when we're only getting paid, I think 700, yeah, we only got paid 700 euros
A
a
month?
month. Yeah. And so if you didn't have somebody to lean on or someone to room with, it was like,
Yeah. I'll tell you
yeah.
right now, London sounds way more expensive.
No,
Like
well, yeah, that surprised me,
450 was,
honest.
yeah, 450 pounds was like ridiculously cheap. 450 pounds is somewhere in the neighborhood of like 700-ish dollars Canadian. But I know people who are paying
God.
well over 700 pounds to like 1,000 pounds, which is like the conversion rate at that point was I think $1.60 or $1.70
Oh my
for every pound. So it was
God.
like you were paying close to like 1,600-1,700 dollars per month in rent on your own. You would get like a whole flat to yourself, but still, that's
That is a
ridiculously
lot of
expensive.
money. I
Yeah.
know, and like we complain here, so
Hmm.
I
Cost of
couldn't
living
imagine.
there though is I will say food is cheaper in was cheaper in London, like buying
Hmm.
groceries was cheaper than in Ontario, from what I can tell.
Hmm.
Like a carton of 12 eggs or whatever was like a pound 20, which is
What?
like a little, which is about like which is
Almost,
about $2.
yeah,
Versus here, I can't remember how much it is, but
four
I
or
know it's
five.
expensive. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So I don't know what was the cost of living like outside of just like
It was
outside of
amazing. Yeah, exact same thing that you said. It was a lot cheaper.
mhm.
I find shopping in Strasbourg than it is shopping here. I found like I was able to get a lot more food down there than if I had purchased it over here. The only thing that I really complained about was just accessibility, just because there is a lot of diversity in Strasbourg, but I don't find that it's as celebrated as it is here. Like here, it's normal to go to a grocery store and find almost every sort of cuisine represented.
Yeah.
And like, even though we have like the international aisle, you can find international foods, whatever aisle you go into.
Hmm.
In Strasbourg, it was like if I didn't go to like a West African market, or if I didn't go to a Caribbean shop, like you were not going to find any of that in the normal grocery stores or the regular big brand grocery stores. So I went to go visit my aunt in London and I stocked up. Like I think
Yeah.
literally half of my suitcase was food. It was
Yeah,
like,
the London was super easy to find any sort of like anything that you want from any part of the world. China, like zero. You literally have to go to like at least where I was, because I wasn't in a major city like Beijing or Shanghai. We're in Shenyang, which is like 8 million people. Ooh, small, like small
right?
again.
Like, oh, 8 million?
Yeah, where it's like
Oh
Beijing is
God.
like 30 million. So I mean, I get, yeah,
Yeah.
it's small, but like there, it was uh like 99.9% of food was like their cultural food, and then 0.1% you might find like Oreos or Dunkaroos or something like,
And
or
you're like,
like
what?
cheese.
And
Like we
even though
found
it's
cheese,
not
and we were
even
like,
that
oh,
amazing
yeah,
here, you'll walk past the Oreos here, but to see it there, you're like, I'm
yeah,
getting it. I'm
exactly.
getting it. It's just like a little taste of home.
Yeah, like I remember they
So that
sent me
definitely add up.
the owners of the school. They were into
Hmm.
a lot of businesses. Then one of their businesses, they had greenhouses with berries and vegetables and things like that, and they also had like a farm with animals, and they had sent me over because like Agatha's vegetarian, I'm not, so they sent
Hmm.
her like 2 boxes of veggies, and they sent me a box of
Oh,
meat.
that's so sweet.
Well, the problem
That's
is
so
like
thoughtful.
it was very thoughtful, and I'm really thankful that they did. But the problem was, we didn't have anywhere to cook it, so like I had a single hot
Oh,
plate with like the
Oh,
most
oh
garbage
no.
pot and whatever. And then on top of that, they sent over chicken. Okay, thank you, it's chicken. But they sent like the whole chicken, just all the feathers.
Oh,
But so I don't know how to cut that. I don't know how to skin that. I don't know how to like. Why are the
oh
eyes missing? I don't. They
no.
sent over a
The eyes missing.
they sent over a cow heart, which I have eaten before, but I don't have the ability to cook that. I don't know how to cook. Like you have to boil it in water and vinegar. I'm pretty sure for 2 hours. So there's like it was like too many hoops and hurdles to jump through to get the stuff cooked.
Yeah.
So I apologize. I said thank you, but I don't know how to cook this stuff, and also we don't have the ability to cook this, so I'm gonna have to like
Right.
politely give this back to you. And
Fine.
I know it went to a good like I know the teachers
That's
took it
good.
and like ate it right away because like
Right.
they have all that stuff at home to cook with. We don't.
Hmm.
I was ordering
Exactly.
takeout like once every 2 days probably.
Yeah.
I was really
No,
into
I.
Korean food in China for some reason.
Oh, really?
That was
Was
my
there like a
thing.
huge market for that, or was it just like the Korean
The
takeout you
restaurants.
kept getting?
Yeah, the Korean takeout. Yeah, I love like for some reason Korean food is like one of my top foods. China, like and don't get me wrong, I love like the food that we had in China. It was really popular to get like and it sounds really stupid. It's like just meat on a stick, but it's like so many different varieties of meats and so many
Like
different kinds of
kebabs?
spices. No, like really thinly sliced meats on sticks, and it was just it's like street market food, but it was
Oh,
so good.
okay.
Hmm. And I was eating that like
Yeah, no.
every day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Kind of sounds like when I went to Hong Kong, which I still have all of the souvenirs that I never handed out to anybody. I still have your stuff, to be honest, too. But
I
yeah, I
forgot about
remember the
that.
food was so good. I know. I feel like every day I was, I'm gonna bring it. I'm gonna bring it. Then like years pass. I'm like, I'm gonna bring it. I'm still gonna bring it.
Yeah.
They're like on my dresser, and I'm like,
Hmm.
should really hand these out. Maybe I'll just give them to my kids,
Hmm.
my students.
Prize
Um,
box.
exactly. Like here's a little pen with a little,
Hmm.
I don't know, machine on it. But yeah, so it was good on that way, like in terms of with Strasbourg, like there were a lot of other people that were in the same program as me. So I was the only Canadian, um, which was really cool in that way, where everyone was either from the US. We had a few people that were from Spain, a few people that were from South America. There were people from Turkey. So it was really all over. The
Hmm.
majority of people were English speaking though. So I would say there was about 30 of us that regularly met up. And so we'd go for like drinks at the bar, or we would go to like watch like music or whatever. There was one of us that he plays guitar and like he sings. And so we'd like go to his shows. And for my birthday, we went to kind of like the equivalent of like, I don't know, what are those places where like you're throwing the balls and you're jumping on trampolines?
Oh, Sky, not Sky Zone. Or was it Sky?
Kind of like
Yeah,
Sky Zone. I
it's
think
like
it's Sky
dodgeball.
Zone.
It's trampoline dodgeball. Yeah, I
Yeah,
know.
so we did that for my birthday. So there was like a lot of involvement, and it was great. Like, and I always feel like now we made such great friendships that if I was like, "Hey, I'm gonna go to Chicago, I have a place to stay," or "I want to go to Spain, I have places to stay," right? And like
Hmm.
vice versa coming here. Um, and actually, there was an ability for us to extend our contract for another year. So some people did stay that additional year. I wanted to get back, especially with what was going on while I was away in terms of they were talking about freezing hiring. So I was kind of
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I'm getting back ASAP. Um, but yeah, a lot of people did stay. I'm not entirely sure how COVID is affecting that.
They're probably back. I'm gonna
Yeah,
guess because they would have been because they're not permanent workers. It's
yeah.
way like even for us. That's why myself and Agatha we left China is because they stopped paying us, and we're like, oh, okay,
Oh,
I guess we're not working anymore. I guess we're not working for you
yeah,
anymore.
right. You're like, oh, okay, like, okay, I'm unemployed.
Yeah, and like they were still like they were providing us with food. They were like they were providing us with our apartment for free, so like we wouldn't have been like we would have been on our butts or anything like that. But it's
Right.
a little scary when you're like, okay, like even if I'm spending $100 every 2 weeks or whatever, it's still like dwindling away at your savings and you're not getting anything back. So it's like I'd rather be at home not making any money than abroad in a country where I don't know anyone not making money.
I agree. Yeah. No, I know. I couldn't imagine how frightening that would have been, especially because we didn't exactly know what was going on when it happened. It was really up in there. And I remember when you're like, okay, I'm coming back now. I was like,
I wanted to come back way earlier. I want like as soon as it happened, I'm like, okay, this is like based off of like previous pandemics that have happened. I'm not expecting this to end anytime soon. And then
no.
it was kind of like, no, they're saying next week, and I'm like, okay, fine, next week. And
Agatha, you were a little bit off.
yeah, well, even I was off. I'm like, it's probably we'll probably be back in May. I think was my guess. And then it's like it's October. It's now October 15th or 16th was when we got to China last year, and we're still like we're now a whole year later.
It's been a whole year, yeah.
So, and like we're not back
Wow.
there. I still have like stuff in the apartment there that like I'm like, keep it
You're
now.
like,
I don't need it
that's gone
anymore.
now.
Yeah, I'm sad. I
Yeah.
had so many like little tchotchkes and souvenirs. And I'm like,
Oh,
I'm gonna come
yeah.
back and get those. Nope.
No,
Never
I'm gonna
never
fly
getting those.
back to China to go
Get like my
get my
$5
souvenir.
like little toy statue or whatever that
Yeah,
I left.
like, oh gosh, I
Mhm.
know. I know, I can
Yeah, it's kind of
imagine.
sad. Eh. I'm glad like I'm glad we got back. To me personally, like as much as I loved experiencing China, it's not somewhere where I would have personally chosen to live any longer than I had to for my contract. I
Hmm.
didn't personally enjoy it as much. And I think that was because like I didn't get to experience like Beijing or Shanghai or any like a
That's
major
what I was gonna
huge city.
ask.
And then on top of
Hmm.
that, because of COVID, it kind of soured like put a sour taste in my mouth. So it was like,
Yeah, I know. I was gonna ask if that was more so the reason that you were kind of just off. Sorry, that you were a little bit off in terms of not being able to be in like the action of everything. Like, what did you guys do for fun? Like,
when we were there or like when
hmm
like before COVID. So we were trying to
well,
like
yeah, when you were.
yeah, we were trying to go out and do as much as we can, like go see things. Like we went to Harbin, which is one of like the most northern cities in China, and there was like a huge like ice sculpture festival and snow festival that we
Oh,
went to. It was
nice.
beautiful. It was awesome. And then we
So
went
you
to
guys
like
kind of like traveled around to find
mhm,
things to do.
yeah,
So,
because it
but
was
like
pretty
on a
cheap.
like a Friday night, could you like say, okay, we're gonna go do karaoke? Like, was there stuff like that in the area?
I'm sure there was, but because we weren't in a like major enough city, there wasn't enough
Right.
like there
Oh,
wasn't
right. Yeah,
that
that's
ability to
true.
like take like an English speaker and put them in somewhere where someone was going to be able to like translate enough for you to get to go to like a karaoke thing or anything like that.
Right.
So it was a little bit harder there. We would try to go out like every weekend to go like see something, do something, because there was always something to do. The problem is it
Hmm.
was kind of hard to figure out what there was to do because like it's also you can't Google anything in China because of their firewall
Oh,
restrictions
censorship,
and the
right?
censorship
Yeah.
stuff. So even
Oof.
like to get my Keko experience accepted into from China to here, so
Hmm.
it would count. I had to they had to send me an email through the Hotmail so I could send it to the York Region HR department's Google or Gmail because they can't use their mailing accounts to send anything to a Google account. So,
That sounds so complicated.
yeah, it was very like they sent the people in York Region sent my employer a like a kind of like a reference Google survey thing to ask me ask some questions about me and how my work was, and they couldn't open it because it's on a Google. It's a Google service, so I had to like put everything into just a Microsoft Word document and send that out to them and figure out that like it took twice as long than
You
that it should
don't
have.
even think about those things too. Like,
Mm-hmm.
that's so weird. I'm trying to think. I Because when I was in Hong Kong, I'm like, I don't know if there was that level of
Hong
censorship when I
Kong,
was there.
no, because it was
No,
autonomous. So now that censorship would be there because China kind of
has yeah,
taken it over.
yeah, yeah.
But before they didn't have that kind of like it was they were more or less democratic. They had free internet, but I don't think so anymore.
Did you ever fear that you were going to be like taken advantage of because you were not, I guess, a Cantonese or Mandarin like speaker? Like, how was it in terms of like catching a taxi? Did you guys ever get like, I don't know?
So that was actually, I think everyone like you used an application. Like everything had an app. You just order it and you're done. So all I asked was one of the teachers like, "How do you order a taxi? Show me how exactly." And then every time it was the same thing. But it was hilarious because as a white person with a beard, it's like to them it's they have never a lot of people have never been outside of China. They've never seen a white
Yeah.
person before because they're not in a major city necessarily. So it's to them it was like mind blowing every time I would sit in a cab. Like
Well,
it was
yeah,
hilarious.
imagine when I went, right? It was like I felt like I was a celebrity. I was
Yeah,
like, I'm
I can believe it.
5'11", super tall. My black hair was like all the way down to my waist. They were just
Yeah,
like, I remember I had people asking me for pictures, and I was like,
yeah.
me?
I would see in Hong Kong, they're much more polite about it. In Shenyang, they would like sneakily take a photo, and I'm like, I see you, nuts. Like you're not
Right,
hiding your
I'm
phone.
catching it
Yeah.
exactly.
And I
Oh,
would
I
walk up to
know.
them and I'd be
Oh
like, if you
man,
want a photo, just ask. And they'd be like, I don't know what you're saying.
right?
It would get because it
No,
would
I
get annoying. I'm
know.
like, I'll like just ask me. I'm not. Do I look mean?
I don't even know. Like, I feel like I never said it no to anybody
No, I
who
would never
didn't
say
ask
no.
either. A
Yeah.
lot of people were just like, okay, I will take it. But I remember when we went to Disneyland Hong Kong, and I was like, my friend basically, we would put our faces like in some Buzz Lightyear
Oh yeah,
stand,
yeah.
right? And so
And
she was
then
taking the
everybody came in and
picture.
started taking the
Yeah,
photo.
and I was like, I just saw people's like phones going, and I'm like, am I in somebody's like family album or something? Like
Probably.
our
Yeah.
trip to Disneyland Hong Kong, and it's like me in the background looking like,
Hmm. I did that. I scared like a bunch of like older Chinese ladies because they were we went skiing with a bunch of teachers, and one of the teachers pointed out to me like, oh, those ladies are trying like they're trying to take a photo of you, like hiding and trying to take a photo of you. So I went around and they're like literally staring at the photo that they had just taken of me and like zooming in on my face. And I walked behind them and I'm like, if you wanted to take a photo, you should have just asked. They were like, they all nearly fell over. And then like the teacher, like the Chinese teachers explained to them like, oh, he's joking. Like he'll take a photo with you. And they're like, oh, ha, ha, ha. And then like,
ah,
it was a cute moment, but it was just like, that happens so often. Cause they were like, I had
yeah.
kids who would like, I had kindergarten children. They would like walk up and
Mm-hmm.
like pull, like hard pull, grab, and like, is this
On
real?
on your
Like,
beard,
yeah.
yeah.
And I had a kid who would cry every single day he saw me for like a week because he was afraid of me because he didn't know
It's
like
like I
what this
can't
is.
see his face. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's like, what is that growth there?
I saw one person in China who had
The
like
entire time you were
stubble,
there?
stubble. Yeah, and it was
Oh
a
my
so
gosh.
like an Asian person who had like not this, but like a little bit, like a 5 o'clock shadow. And like people were giving him dirty looks when I saw. So like for me, obviously it's much different. But there,
Sticking out. Yeah, you
yeah.
have a glorious beard for sure.
Well, thank you. But there were a
Yeah, I'm
lot
trying to
of
start to grow
expat
mine on
students.
too now.
I bet.
I'm starting.
hmm There were a lot of expat students in China, though. There were a lot
Oh,
of
okay.
Moroccan students
Hmm.
and
Were there a lot of students
African
from like,
students.
yeah,
Yeah.
Nigeria? My friend,
Nigeria, yeah.
yeah, she went to school in Beijing, and she's like, there was a huge Nigerian population that was in
hmm
at her university too.
Yeah. But I feel like a lot of those universities, because I asked them, I'm like, what is the university called? And then I Googled it afterwards. Because I use we had like VPNs to Google stuff. And I'm looking at these universities. I'm like, I'm pretty sure that these are like fake universities. Like this is like a degree that's never going to get
Oh,
you anything. So I have a feeling a lot of these students were getting scammed. Like a lot of just in general, a
Oh
lot of expat students were getting
no.
scammed. Yeah. I
Oh
don't
no
know.
way. See,
Yeah.
I don't know because she was at like a university, but she was there just to learn Mandarin. So
That's
I
different.
don't.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think
that's
like
different.
yeah.
That's
So
like
I
a
think yeah,
proper credit or whatever. But this is like
exactly.
I'm spending 4 years in this city in their university to learn, and it's like a weird private university. I'm like, this sounds very sketchy.
Oh no. I hope
Yeah,
that. Oh no.
but like a lot, I feel like I know like one of my coworkers, she worked at the front desk of the school, and she was like, I have a degree from so and so university. It was like some US university. I'm like, you have a degree from the US university? Like, did you go there? No. Did you go like did you take courses online there? No. Did you like how did you get it? She was like, oh, someone came in one time and ran a class and I have the university degree. I'm like, I didn't say anything, but I'm like, that is
That's not how it
not
works.
how that works,
Not
I'm pretty
even
sure.
slightly. You're like, oh yeah, like Harvard Business School and like
It was
Harvard
like the University of Wisconsin or
SBERD.
something, or like, it was like a regular, it was like not like a bad university, it was like an average
Hmm.
university, but still, I'm like,
That's
that's not
not
how you
how
get a
this thing
university degree.
works.
Yeah.
No, not at all.
And I'm sure there was like, I'm sure there's a lot of that going on because I know that like they just have so many emerging markets that they don't have time to like vet everything. So like
Hmm.
one like scam business pops up, you smack it down, another one pops up in its place. I'm sure like that same
Yeah,
thing
and
works here.
yeah, I know exactly that does happen here. I know that people kind of got in trouble over the summer because there were some courses that Harvard was offering online, and then people were like, "I'm Harvard educated," and it was like a 2 week course, right?
Yeah.
So, but you're right, like people want that, I guess, like that status of
Yeah,
saying
just to like write it on your
post
resume, like went to
secondary.
Harvard. Yeah.
Exactly. It's like business school online 2 week
Hmm.
course.
Yeah, no, not the same.
No.
All right, Christine, is there anything else you wanted to mention about your time in
Just
France or about education, teaching?
I would say in terms of just the trip, when for anybody that wants to go abroad, is to just really save,
Hmm.
really vet what school, what area you're going to. If you can get in contact with the schools before, because there were some people that I know that when they got to the school, they were told, oh no, like there was no longer a need for them. And so like they kind of had to go job hunting in in France. So yeah, I would say kind of like do your homework, don't jump into it, but also there's such a huge growing process. I came back and I felt a lot more independent, a lot more mature, and a lot more able to just like get my stuff together. And I was a lot more, I just felt like a lot more able to kind of conquer life. I felt like I didn't have that before I left.
Hmm.
And like, right? I was just like, I need mom and dad's help. And then when I came back here, I was like, I did
Yeah,
it. I
I could
lived.
do my own
It's like,
laundry. Don't worry, mom. Like
right? Right?
that's
I
like
could make my own dinner.
yeah.
Which was, it was out, that was a huge jump for me too, where it was like, it was a situation of, if I didn't make dinner,
There was
I
no
wasn't
dinner.
going to eat dinner.
Yeah.
Right? Whereas here, if I don't make dinner, then somebody's gonna make dinner. Somebody will get to it, right? And if
Mhm.
I don't do my laundry and my hamper's full, well, then I have no clothes to wear, right? And you need to learn how to budget too. You want to do fun things, and fun things are plentiful, especially when you're in a foreign country and borders are close. Like I used to go grocery shopping in Germany, and I lived in France, so I was like 10 minutes from the German border.
Cool.
We did a lot of traveling. That was definitely something that I really love about TAPIF. So I would say, like, if you want to join TAPIF, I would go for it. Just know that savings is important, and to kind of just be open to, you might not get where you anticipated on getting. I didn't, Strasbourg was not my first choice, but after hearing some of the stories from the other two cities that I chose, I was like, this was the best choice for me. And the
Hmm.
people that were there with me, I learned so much from them. Um, Also be comfortable with, like, being in the unknown. especially with your situation being in China, you didn't even speak the language, right?
Yeah.
But I'm sure like there was definitely parts of it where you feel like, wow, like I definitely came back a changed person, right? Or like you have like parts of your trip that really like stuck with you.
Oh yeah, like
Or
it's
like,
definitely
right.
changed my perspective on like on a lot of different things. Traveling to China
Mm-hmm.
or traveling to the UK, like both of those trips opened up my eyes to like how you were saying, like
Mm-hmm.
living abroad, living alone, making sure you're taking care of yourself, seeing different
Absolutely.
cultures, all that jazz. There's
Mm-hmm.
so much you learn from just
Yeah, and
living
it
abroad.
was I what I loved too was just like even like the Black community. When I was in France, like it's so interesting to see like, okay, like you're a Black Canadian versus like you're a black person. You may be from Nigeria or you may be like from Somalia,
Hmm.
and you're now living in Strasbourg. Like how's that change? And like it was great to like I lived in like a predominantly Black neighborhood even though I was only 2 minutes from the city center, and it was just like great to have like a community of like people that like we know each other. The food was good, it was like small, everybody, it was amazing. So I definitely would again like look where you're buying into, like don't jump. I kind of took a leap and it worked out, but
Hmm.
again I had a week to make a decision, so I was like I need to go somewhere after this Airbnb, let's get a place. So
Yeah, that was
um
kind of the boat that we were in too. We had a really garbage Airbnb, and we were like running around trying to find a place to
exactly.
get before school started. We really wanted a place. That was it, and
Hmm.
we took that leap. And luckily, like the
It
owner of
worked
the
out.
house worked out very well. I know people who did not like their roommates or did not like their landlord or
Yeah,
their area or whatever it is. So if you're planning on moving, like there are things you could do to start like looking at places before
yeah.
you get there. It's hard, I know it, because like especially like when you're renting out like flats and whatever to random people, it's like it gets snatched like that. Like it's
I
really
know. I
so
know.
you can't
Yeah.
like
It's like
plan
really
perfectly, but you can
competitive.
find the areas. Yeah.
Yeah. And then in terms of teaching within Canada, I would just say like have
I thought you were
some
playing.
level.
That could be
No,
like our outro music, like.
right? I was like, mom.
Mhm.
um, I would definitely just say like be like don't over plan. um get to know your class. Again, like you could prepare the best lesson ever, and it's all about classroom management and getting your students to really like you and to respect you, because when you have that foundation laid, then teaching a lesson comes easy when they're receptive to learning.
Mhm.
Whereas if you're trying to work on that classroom management while class is in session, it's not going to work out, right? So
No.
I think that would be definitely my advice to new teachers, is just like form those relationships with your students.
Yeah.
Try
No.
to be the
That's.
teacher that you wanted when you were a student, right? And
Mhm.
kind of like adjust.
Yeah, that's very important. Yeah. No. Like
Yeah.
I try to make sure in my classroom that first and foremost we learn how to be good students and how to respect each other, and then
Yeah.
everything else comes after, because
Yeah,
you're gonna
character
end up teaching them
trait building is
eventually.
important. Yeah,
Hmm.
exactly. Like building character, I think, is a lot more important than necessarily getting to the curriculum, right?
Hmm.
You that will come. But in terms of like, does the student know, like, what it means to be a good person, like what it means
Hmm.
to be a good citizen, right? I think that's like the most important thing that I try to like get in with my students, and like learning social skills, right? No, we can't hit. We have
Yeah.
to talk through our problems.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hands to yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. Because
You'd
you
be
can't teach
surprised that
if that doesn't happen. Yeah.
no, right? And definitely um trying to make yourself a member of that community. Like again, it is a lot easier for me because I'm teaching in a very small school. I know
Hmm.
all the students' names. So, hi Timothy in the hallway, how are you doing? What do you have for lunch, right? Um and like getting to know parents too, like forming bonds, like making, like sunshine calls in the beginning of the year, letting them know who you are, what your
Hmm.
expectations are. um Also, keeping in contact with your cert, I think, is super important.
Mm-hmm.
Knowing like what worked for previous teachers in terms of students that may need that extra support. Um, because it is pretty daunting when okay, I have my lesson set out. How can I adjust it to make sure that the student also can meet that criteria for this lesson? Is definitely really important, especially when creating IEPs. So keeping contact with your cert, your IEP is an ever evolving document. So don't ever feel like it's fixated and the plan that you had at the beginning of the year is going to last you through the whole year. You're going to get to know your student more. You're going to get to know their strengths and their faults. So just be definitely open and flexible in terms of like lesson delivery and pacing, I think is really important. And I think that will definitely help you through your first year or whatever
Mm-hmm.
year that you're in.
Yeah. All right, Christine. Well, it was a pleasure talking to you, and thank you for
Yeah,
coming on
as
to the first
always.
episode.
Yeah,
My computer
I'm
is
excited.
literally about to die. It's at 3%.
Okay, so we
Everything's
timed this
died. Yeah,
perfectly.
exactly. Everything's died. My camera's died in the episode. Dad walked in. Mom
Hey,
called.
Dad. Yeah.
I think that's a good episode.
Yeah,
So
I
thank you very
agree.
much for coming on.
No,
And
thanks for having
I
me.
think the next one's gonna have to be eventually, like not the next one, but in a few, it's gonna have to be you, me, and Jessica reminiscing about UTSC.
Sharing embarrassing stories.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm down for
talking
that.
smack about our old stomping ground.
I'm down for that.
Mhm. All
All
right.
right. Well, nice talking to you as always.
Good talking to you too. Have a good night.
Yeah, you too. Bye.
Bye.